What's going on, everybody? Another episode of Denmark and Marsh. I'm Dylan Denmark. That is Graham Marsh. Hope everybody's had a good week thus far. Recording this Tuesday morning. My goodness, it is such a difference between a win and a loss in the world of college football, especially when you're surrounded by the whatever adjective you want to describe for the Jags and how much they suck. I guess that's the worst. That's the word I'll use. Man, DJ Lagway, I was thinking about this, Graham. I heard somebody say this. I wish I could remember who it is. You know, you hear a lot of things and you can't remember who says it, which is not good in our profession. You try to give credit to where credit's due. They said, this is somebody in the national media, it might have been from CBS Sports, and they mentioned the way DJ Lagway's playing, the momentum that Florida's getting right now. Florida's probably going to be the hottest team and probably the most talked about team going into next year. And granted, there's still a lot of things that can change and a lot of things that can happen. But, man, when you have DJ Lagway, I mean, something that, you know, I spoke on a little bit after the game. The guy does so many things that you don't even teach. He has so much God-given talent. And if you were to project probably 2 years from now, you probably think right now he's probably a top 10 pick in the draft. And because of that, you have now Tramel Jones that's flipped from Florida State to Florida. You have Solomon Thomas who's on the verge apparently. Jamie French on the verge, a kid from Mandarin that plays with Tramel Jones.
Dallas Wilson.
Yeah, another kid. And Florida's got another D lineman from the state of Tennessee, a high school kid. And Tramel Jones went on with Hacker last night.
Shivers from Brentwood Academy, where Jalen Ramsey went to high school.
Okay. Tramel Jones went on with Hack last night, and he said, yeah, we're trying to get a lot of these Jacksonville kids to come down to Gainesville.
Good.
Which, I mean,
Good.
A lot of kids, say that. How much of that will happen, who knows?
Well, to Billy's credit, they've gotten more Jacksonville kids in their time there. So I believe it a little more than when Mullen.
Well, with these kids, with Solomon Thomas and Jamie French, these are the two. Solomon Thomas is one of the top kids in the nation, and Jamie French is like a top 30 prospect in the country. Jamie French is probably the best prospect to come out of Jacksonville. I wouldn't go as far as Derrick Henry, but that's the only one that comes to mind where it's like he's the dude and he's the main guy in the city for the last, couple of years.
I watched him in person against Bradford.
Oh, he's insane. And Bradford's defense is unreal.
And Bradford, they got a really good defense. Tramel got hurt in that game. He was either already hurt or he
was already hurt. He got hurt against
right,
Atlantic Coast.
I forgot because their backup, I think, also got hurt in that game. Anyways, Jamie actually got hurt as well. It was a body bag game for Mandarin, but before he got hurt, like the whole first half, it's like anytime you touch the ball, it's like when you watch a 5-star in high school, and not just their highlights, like you watch them throughout a game, it is so stark, the difference between them and everybody else.
Yeah. Well, with him, when you catch a ball and you have the capability he does, you hold your breath as a defense.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't like that. Bradford's defense the last 2 years has had like over 15 shutouts. They had a couple this year. They rebuilt a lot this year with a lot of their talent, but still, he was still able to make a couple plays, which is unreal. But to get back to DJ Lagway, it feels like even in this Ole Miss game, where Ole Miss is a 9, 10-point favorite, depending where you look, Ole Miss has 3 really good pass rushers. You just feel like you can win any game with him at quarterback.
Because we talked about this a little bit on our postgame show on Saturday. When your quarterback can complete the deep ball at that level of accuracy, think about how much bad play that can mask, right? If you have a quarterback that can just hit dudes dead in the hands 40 yards down the field, how many plays between where you were and those 40 yards could you have had something stupid happen? Could you have had a sack or a false start or an illegal formation or a drop pass or a fumble? Or it just, when you can just explosively get down the field like that, it just makes life on your entire offense so much easier. And we talked about this a little bit on our postgame show. I think I've listened to I've listened to every podcast out there and everything. So if I'm missing some people,
you're a follower.
Right, exactly. So if I miss people talking about this, then apologies to you. But just from a lot of things I saw, some on this radio station, some I saw from Twitter and different stuff, a narrative from the game Saturday, Dylan, that I don't love is people are looking at the time of possession in the game as a way to say that LSU dominated the game.
Yeah, you didn't watch the game if you.
And I could not disagree with that more. People are looking like, look, it's so crazy that LSU, lost by double digits. That's such a weird game because, they dominated the trenches. They went up and down the field and they had possession almost 2-1 to Florida. And it's like, yes, LSU did sustain long drives and Florida's defense did struggle to get them off the field on third down. That much is true. And that does obviously cater to a lot of time in possession. I get that. Totally understand that. And Florida's defense did play well. They were getting in the backfield, 7 sacks. The one thing they did struggle with, we talked about 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, struggle to get them off the field. That much is true. And LSU got 2 fourth down. I think they might have been 2
or 3.
Yeah,
one of the 2.
On 4th down. So that much is true. I will give you that for sure. But offensively for the Gators, I mean, one of your touchdowns was a 50-yard run from Jaden Ball. Like, that's going to be a big factor in time of possession. The first touchdown of the game was a big throw from Lagway to DK. That was like a 30-yard pass. A 25-plus yard run from Jacoby Jackson, and then a big pass again to Badger in the end zone. Like, that's boom, 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 you're in the end zone.
Yeah, the thing about the box score will tell you a story depending on how you look at it. Like, if you're getting blown out and you want to add to how the blowout was, you look at the box score.
Yeah.
You look at the first downs, you look at the time of possession. But if you watch that game, there was never a point where it looked like Florida was being outmatched.
Not once. Not once.
The only time where you were feeling was when it was late in the first half, the score was 10-10, and you were like, Florida's played really good, and it's only a tie game.
Yeah.
And that was really about it. The only thing which I mentioned, which I still don't understand, when you knew your defense needed help to be off the field, and LSU ran 90-plus plays, one way you can do that on offense is to run the ball. And I think Florida, every first down except for the last drive, threw the ball, which didn't make no sense to me because you could run the ball effectively.
I agree.
1, and 2, you knew that LSU run defense has been bad in the second half against A&M and against Alabama. So
run the ball.
Right. Run. Yeah.
Did you see the T-shirts?
I did not see that.
There's T-shirts now with Jaden Ball, and
there's
it says,
a lot
run the
of
ball.
things you see that I don't see. So you need to start sharing that with me.
I got you.
Because I'm a busy person.
That's fair.
One thing that shocked me with how I don't know how if people know how good LSU had been up to the Florida game. Because, a lot of it is just, they played bad against Alabama. Oh, LSU's not as good a football team. And they don't remember LSU beat Ole Miss in overtime. LSU beat a good South Carolina team. They went toe-to-toe, and then they fell apart against A&M in the second half. I tweeted out Sunday, Florida's offensive line gave up no sacks and 1 tackle for loss. And Napier and Lagway both said after the game that their mission was to keep a clean pocket. Lagway went 13 for 26. Never ran the ball. Was never a threat to run, obviously, with his hamstring. This is what LSU had done in conference play before.
He was
they
a
played
statue
Florida.
in the pocket.
Yes.
Because not only did he not scramble for yard, he didn't even move a lot in the pocket. Like, he was in one spot.
Yeah, and he was asked after the game, he said, how much were you able to go? He goes, I was good enough.
Yeah.
Which shows you he was probably at 75-80%. But this is what LSU had done in conference play before they played Florida. LSU had no sacks but 3 tackles for loss against Alabama. Their bad game. A&M, they had 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. The Arkansas game, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. And Ole Miss, which is a pretty good offensive line, 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. And against Florida, they had no sacks and 1 tackle for loss. And then conversely, I keep hearing the stat, LSU had only given up like 7 sacks all year, and that's what Florida had, or they had to give up 8 sacks. They had 1 sack in the first half and 6 in the second half. So whatever they're doing, whatever change they've made since week 3 has been completely different from that standpoint on. And that's the difference why you're seeing Florida be so good right now.
And that's why I think we've complained a lot in his tenure about how predictable Billy's play calling is. Well, you can have semi-predictable play calling if you're protecting up front and executing well, right? To your point, they did change it up a little bit because they threw the ball out on first downs, which I agree with you. I wish they'd have run the ball a little bit more. And if Florida had lost the game, I think that would be a huge point of contention today. They kind of did. They kind of went Spurrier on them. They kind of did throw to open up the run a lot because they start running the ball a little bit more in the second half, especially late in the game, and then obviously Ball rips off the big one. It was weird. Before Ball ripped off the big one, Jacoby Jackson was running the best out of any of the backs. I think Montreal had gotten in sparingly, had those 2 runs. They were nice runs, but they're just the 2 runs. And
I
Ball,
still don't think he's healthy.
I don't think so either. But it felt like Ball wasn't quite getting going like he had been in other games. I know he had the big boom that he delivered, which was nice, and everybody enjoyed that. But Jacoby Jackson felt like the guy that was getting the most efficient use out of his runs. But anyway, to your point, Dylan, like when they block it up front and some of those wheel routes they like to run and crossing routes they like to run, and now especially with Lagway, just straight up deep shots they like to throw, and you get a little protection up front for 2, 3, 4 seconds, and you get a pretty clean pocket. That allows even what most of us consider to be a pretty simple offense that doesn't have a lot of wrinkles, isn't super creative, doesn't do a lot of, crazy things to throw a defense. It's pretty nuts and bolts type of offense. If you're executing at that level and you're making it easy on your players and they're just simply making plays, then it's fine. And if they keep recruiting well enough to have the dudes to do that, then I think it can work. Will it forever? I don't know. This might blow up in our face. I can't predict the future on that, but I can see a world where it works, I guess, is the point. Where earlier in the season, I'm like, this thing's never going to.
Yeah. The offensive line is going to definitely have their toughest test this Saturday.
Oh, yeah. This is the best D-line they faced.
And they've played some good D-lines against Kentucky and Tennessee, and they've held their own. Georgia, you could throw in there, too. Ole Miss has 3 guys that are, like, top 17 in sacks in the country. 2 guys in the top 10. Princely, obviously, being one of them from Florida. I'm interested to see how this matchup's going to be. You got to wait for the injury report to come out tomorrow. But I wonder, and the spread opened at 19.5, which it should. Ole Miss has it rolling right now. Ole Miss is they're getting hot at the right time.
Not only is this one of the best rosters they've like literally ever had in their program, but like right now they're playing their best ball of the year.
Yes. They've beat Georgia 28-10. They beat South Carolina pretty good. They scored 60+ on Arkansas in a noon game. That's the thing. Like, this game's at noon, so you think, oh, maybe Ole Miss might come in here sleepwalk. Probably not.
What happened with Ole Miss is defensively they've been playing well all year for the most part. Offensively, they started a lot slower than you'd expect a Lane Kiffin offense to start. Remember the Kentucky game they lost? That game was gross and clunky, and they couldn't really.
Well, they never had the ball.
Yeah, and it was just a tough. It was a tough start to the season for them. You expected that offense to be explosive and up and down the field and scoring 50 points all the time and doing crazy stuff, and it didn't quite work out that way at the beginning of the year. It's getting there now. 28 points against Georgia is the equivalent of 45, 50 points against somebody else. They're starting to roll. Jackson Dart's starting to play well. By the way, in that game against Georgia, arguably the most important drive of the game was when Jackson Dart went down and Austin Simmons, former Gator recruit, who's now a freshman at Ole Miss, came in and marched them down the field. That was a massive drive in that football game. So it just goes to show you, I think, a bigger byproduct is that just their offense is just starting to really roll and be what Lane envisioned it being all season.
Can I get a basketball report from what happened Friday night? Because I still haven't seen a single highlight from the game.
You gotta watch Gator basketball.
Look,
bro.
man, Friday night I went to Tallahassee. We lost 48-7.
So did the Gators.
No, they didn't.
Friday night they went to Tallahassee.
Yeah, I know.
Gator basketball.
I said we lost, and you said
no. You said Friday night I went to Tallahassee. I said so did the Gators.
Yeah, and we lost 48-7.
Okay, you lost. What was the score at halftime?
For what, us?
Yeah,
42-0.
Okay, so it's 42-0. You should have just gone over to the tuck and just started watching the Gator basketball game. You ain't need to come back in that second half. You're now 42-0, bro. If you told the whole staff, they'd be like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure the head coach will be all right with that.
You'd be like, hey, I got a podcast we got to do.
I got to go be an inside source for this game so I can get the scoop on this pod that we do.
Exactly.
That 12 people listen to. Which I know is more than 12. Our numbers are popping.
We got a good listener base.
Saturday night was popping.
Shout out everybody.
YouTube was popping. Our boomers on Facebook were about 1,000, I think. Maybe they might have been a little bit more. I might be wrong on that. Anyway, I saw Florida State did not play well from what it looked like me. Florida's just playing good basketball from what it looks like from an outsider.
Florida really didn't play that well in that game. They could not stop turning the ball over, and it was so aggravating because Florida's just a far better basketball team than Florida State is, and it was clear. But the Gators couldn't stop turning the ball. If Florida didn't turn the ball over, it felt like they were going to win that game by 30 points.
Let me see how many they had.
I mean, they were just it was just a lot of dumb mistakes.
19 turnovers to Florida State's 8.
Right, which is
and Florida State had 16 points off turnovers.
Yeah, you had some of our bigs were trying to swing the ball around like they were Magic Johnson or something, and some dumb passes. Florida State was they were pressing a lot. They'd have 2 or 3 guys in the front court, or on our side of the court when we'd inbound it a lot to try to create, and it worked sometimes, and it sped us up a little bit sometimes, which they're gonna have to get coached out of. But man, Walter Clayton is just absurd. He's so good. He had a little run of a little stretch of threes like he was freaking Steph, man. He threw one up where I'm like, what are you doing? And it was cash. And I was expecting him after he hit it. It was only in the first half, so he obviously wasn't going to do this. But I was expecting him almost to do the night celly with Steph, because like I've just seen Steph make stupid shots like that so many times. But he's so good. Elijah Martin is going to be such a good find for them. Not really a find. Everybody knew who he was. He was on the FAU team that went to the Final Four. He hit Florida State late in the second half, was making a little bit of a comeback, and they were cutting the lead, and it was looking like the last couple minutes might be a little something. And Elijah Martin threw up a 3 as time's expiring, deep 3, kind of a desperation shot, bank shot, nails it. And that was a huge shot. And then Walter Clayton went right back down and hit another 3, and that kind of pulled him away. If this team can fix the turnover bug, they're going to be really, really, really tough to deal with. They have so many different dudes on offense that can get hot on any given night and be the guy to score for them on any given night. They play good defense. They're big. They got size. They rebound. When they get fouled, they hit free throws for the most part, which is really good. That's a lot of college teams' kryptonite. If they can just fix this turnover thing, they're going to give almost every team they play problems.
They play FAMU tonight. Can I get a spread for the FAMU game?
I don't think I've ever watched a dribble of FAMU basketball, but
they're 0-3.
I'll guess it's
they lost to Maryland, SMU, and TCU.
You need a spread. I'm gonna say 20.5.
35.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay.
FAMU's given it more than 100 points twice, so that's the measuring stick Florida's got to get.
Got you.
Well, Hannah.
Can we talk about Billy Napier for a minute again?
Yeah, I got 5 minutes.
Okay. Because I had a couple thoughts that I want to run by you. Talking about next year and moving forward and stuff. Because we had talked about last week how we're not totally convinced he keeps his job with the win against LSU. Though.
He's about 99%.
He's right. So we can fully talk about next year with the understanding that Billy Napier will be the coach, I believe. Something that I thought about doing. Obviously, we're all excited to see between Solomon Thomas and French and all these guys. We're all excited to see if Florida can end up flipping getting a few 5-stars in this class and seeing where it ultimately might end up. Because they still got a lot of ground to make up, and we're all excited to see where it ends up.
Florida's 31st in recruiting as of this morning.
Right. 31st.
31, yes.
Everybody understands that Florida is going to be probably the most active team in the portal this year, right? Because of the way the class is, because of what the expectations will be next year, you're going to need guys in a lot of positions that can step up and play right now, right? And I was thinking about it. This staff and how they've been able to hit with their evals in the portal is arguably the most impressive thing they've done since they've been here. It probably is the most impressive thing they've done.
I heard Chris Doran talk about that with Hicken and Prosser this morning. Year one, they were really good in the portal. granted, there was some of Billy Napier's guys, Osiris Torrance, Montreal Johnson, and Pearsall. Year 2 wasn't as good, but this past year, DK, Badger, Pup Howard.
So I'm trying to remember who in the portal did they bring in last year that wasn't any good?
Like Cameron Jackson.
Jackson's been I guess. Yeah, Jackson's been hit or miss.
It was like 2 or 3 guys that were expected to do good, and they were like just average. I feel like one was on the D line. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Oh, I remember the corner last year that was terrible. He was so bad I blocked him out of my memory from Georgia. Who's the corner last year that they got from Georgia? He was horrendous. You know who I'm talking about.
I'm drawing a blank.
Oh my
I
God.
gotta get a number. I'm about to pull up the portal class.
He was number 8, I believe. How am I forgetting that? People are going to be upset that I'm forgetting this person. Jalen Kimber.
Oh yes.
Oh my God. That was obviously a bad miss, of course. And a couple other guys here and there, but
okay, I got the class for you. You got Mertz.
mm-hmm.
I don't even know these dudes.
Hit. Mertz is a hit.
Damian George, hit. Cam Jackson.
Damian George, not a hit at tackle, a hit at guard.
Yeah. Caleb Banks.
Hit.
It's a hit now. Wasn't a hit last year. Dude, I've never heard of half these dudes. Like Deuce Spurlock, Cam Carroll.
Carroll. From a running back. He got hurt last year, but.
Taraja Mitchell.
Taraja Mitchell was there for.
Hudson.
Taraja Mitchell didn't do much last year. He's not on the team anymore. He's
Kenyatta Goodwin.
So I guess last year might have been a little bit of a bump then, but
yeah.
You look at this year. Let's just take this year's class. Unless I'm missing somebody that people can bring up if they like that someone else that I'm missing. The only misses in this portal cycle were DJ Douglas, who's terrible at safety.
Oh, he's bad.
He doesn't play, and he's awful.
He's not an SEC player.
No. So that's a miss. And Joey Slackman doesn't do anything.
No, the guy out University of Penn.
Yeah.
He's not.
Joey Slackman, I mean, you may as well have you.
He's
or
not
me.
a dude. He's just a guy.
Yeah, Joey Slackman gets mental reps on the sidelines.
So it's important that you brought that up.
But besides that, this year, every portal guy's been a hit. Pup Howard, really good. Elijah Badger, Chim DK, Asa Turner, we'll never really know. He got hurt first game. We just kind of aren't going to know there. But these other dudes have been hits, man.
Pup Howard.
Yes, I Pup Howard. That was the first guy. But
my bad.
But these dudes can play, bro.
Short-term memory.
Like they're good.
Yeah, and one thing that's important, what they're changing about the portal in the winter for the December, the winter portal is going to open the day after all the bowl games and the college football playoffs announced, and you have 30 days instead of 45. So it's open from December 4th to the 28th. So you're going to know a lot of your main guys, who's going to be in your program and how your team's going to look before New Year's. So that's going to be pretty significant. And you play Florida State, you're going to have that off week. I'm sure you're going to be out. I can't remember what the dead periods are because the NCAA changes the damn thing every other week. And then you got to hit it. You got to hit a running because you got to get these guys in your program, and you got to know, and you got to have all this money that they said they weren't going to give Napier. They're going to give it NIL. Let's see it because if you're going to pay these dudes top dollar, you got to be getting main guys.
Let's put really quickly because I know we want to wrap here. Let's put the high school guys in kind of a different bucket for now. We've kind of talked about them a little bit, and we'll see how that plays out. In terms of the portal, in terms of where you expect a portal guy to come in next year and deliver and be a good player to help this team win football games in 2025, what positions explicitly would you say today they have to go get?
Lines of scrimmage.
Agreed.
D-line.
I think they're going to need a tackle. Barber's going to be your left tackle. You're going to need, I think, a right tackle, I believe. And maybe a couple of guys for depth. D-line,
D-line's got to be the main priority.
I'd say every position on the D-line can at least use a depth piece, if not a starter. D-line, you're going to get Jamari Lyons back next year, hopefully, which would be nice. But Banks is going to be gone.
He's a junior.
Banks?
Yeah.
Then who am I thinking is going to be gone? Jackson will be gone, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I got them. But Banks was unbelievable on Saturday. Anyways, they need a couple depth pieces on both sides of the line, and hopefully one or two of those on both sides are difference makers. And if that's true, plus your current guys develop, and then defensive line, LJ McCray develops into what we think LJ McCray could be.
Saturday.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden you could have a really nice D-line.
I mean, if you want to know why Ole Miss is what they are, Lane Kiffin's said multiple times with Paul Feinbaum and a couple others. When they got beat by Georgia last year, their coach has said as a staff, and they said, we got to get better lines of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So what they do, they went out and paid these guys that you're all seeing perform really well, and that's why they're dominating. So if you want to know why Florida played with Georgia, it's because they play with Georgia at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. You've got to have a good lines of scrimmage, and then throw in a safety, throw in another receiver, a deep guy. You would rather have a guy in the portal over a high school freshman because that kid from the portal has been in a college program before, know what college is like to go to class. A kid that's a high school kid is trying to remember where class is and how to adjust. It's a lot for a kid.
So we'd say multiple guys on both lines of scrimmage, like probably one or two on the offensive line, 2 to 3 on the defensive line. Do you think that's probably a fair?
Yeah, I'd say at a minimum.
A fair range.
That's probably what you got to do.
Corner, I think you're good. You got nice, good young corners I feel good about. I mean, Dijon Johnson has really come on as of late, played really well. Jakeem Jackson he's been hurt. He hadn't played. Like,
and you
might have him, Cormani McLean, like
you got Gates, that's in the secondary.
Jameer Grimsley at corner that we haven't seen yet. Like, you got and I think Devin Moore's back next year as well. You got dudes at corner that I feel good about. Safety, I agree with you. I think you probably need maybe just one safety, I think, that's played a lot of college football. Ideally at a good level. I don't need another Tulane guy. I need a dude that's played real college football. Asa Turner was supposed to be that this year, but he got hurt again. But someone like that to pair up with Castell, and I'd feel good. Receiver, and that's the defense. Receiver is, I think, the only other position on offense that I'd say you. It depends on Eugene Wilson. If Eugene Wilson,
about to say, if he leaves, you got to get.
Yeah, if Eugene Wilson transfers, Florida needs 2 portal receivers, I would say. Yeah. If he doesn't, I think they just need 1.
Yeah,
and it's got to be someone that's played. To your point, it's got to be someone that's played a lot of college football, caught a lot of balls, is reliable. You can count on to make the catches in the moments, be in the right spot. Chim DK, is that guy.
You got DJ Lagway, and when you have him, you can. If that's not enough of a recruiting pitch, I don't know what to tell you.
I agree.
So, all right, we'll give y'all a show Thursday. Injury report comes out Wednesday night, and we'll talk to y'all then.